Hi, and welcome to this week's episode hosted by Gray and Mark Law of St John's Health and Fitness and Mark Elm of Leeds Beckett University, where we take training theory and science onto the gym floor.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. Right, here we are, episode 13. We're going to discuss fat burners. So we've kind of covered the area slightly in past episodes. Which one were it, boys? Remind me. We spoke about kind of caffeine. We've kind of just touched upon it a little bit, haven't we? Supplements and things, and kind of fat burning has been mentioned, but it's quite a popular topic between clients of ours, Martin, and members who come to the gym asking about fat burners. Do we recommend fat burners? Should they be taking fat burners if they're trying to lose weight? Hence, we thought it'd be a really good podcast, something good to cover. So we thought, including Elm, we obviously is knowledge. So we're going to be picking your brain today, mate, aren't we? And expecting, hopefully, you can clear a few things up for us and our members.
Yeah,
on the positives, you know what I mean? Do's and don'ts, obviously some to avoid, some that are harmless, some that are worth trying. Just that sort of thing. So we'll just cover it as a bit of a general thing quickly, because I think a few people should find it quite interesting.
Yeah.
The effect that they have on the body. So awesome. So I'm happy with that. Shall we have a quick chat first? We just mentioned, didn't we? We'd just have a little catch up because over Easter holidays we've just been away, haven't we? So You've been away, mate. You've had an holiday. We've been away. So we said we'd just have a little catch up about what we've been up to since we last saw each other.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since we actually been in the same room at the same time, or on the same virtual room at the same time. Anyway, yeah. So, you guys have been up far north, haven't you? Was it Berwick?
Yes, mate. Yeah, North Berwick we went to, so that was nice. Nice few days just on beaches. Nice Northumberland coast, mate, innit? So we were just on beach. It were all right. Busy few days with kids. Bit of paddle boarding, a bit of cold water swimming. My God, that North Sea was cold.
Yeah.
We said it was probably the coldest sea we've ever been in.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous, but it was great. It was a good laugh.
I don't think Wim Hof could have handled it. It was that cold.
We'll have to challenge him to come to North Berwick and try it one day.
That's what we
get about Iceland.
Yeah, that reminds me of the story. I took a group of England college girls to Estonia. So that is up north. And we said it was a baking hot day. They said, "Can we go in the sea? Because we're on the coast. Can we go in the sea?" And they went, "Yeah, no problem." Like I say, a bit of cold water immersion is good for recovery. So they've all belted into the sea, thinking it was probably like 35, 40 degrees that day. It was incredibly hot. They run into the sea, going, "Oh, it's Baltic." I went, "That's literally what that sea is. That's come off an ice cap." Like they thought they were running to quite a warm, like Scarborough Beach kind of hot baby. Like they literally hit this kind of wall of ice. Flew back at Baltic. Yeah, no, that's the Baltic Sea. That's why that's an expression, because that's a very, very, very cold sea that's come off the ice cap.
Very cold. That's why they say it's Baltic.
That was the only time they asked to go in the sea. Only time they asked to go in. So I think that's probably up there with what you guys had.
It's probably a bit more of a shock to the system, though, isn't it? If it's like 35 degrees outside, it wasn't 35 degrees where we were. The temperature difference between out and in the sea wasn't that much, really. But we didn't last that long. 2 minutes.
It was cold.
You were just shivering. It was freezing. Yeah. So, but it was a good few days, mate. Out in fresh air, long days out, beach walks and coast walks. It was spot on. What about you?
Yeah, well, we indoor swimming pool at Flamborough, so that was that was just as bad. Yeah, the heated pool was only at 30 degrees, so it was horrific. Now we had about 4 or 5 days at Caravan Coast near Flamborough. So it was my eldest daughter who's 4. She turned 4 while we were away, so we took her away for a few days and show bars and indoor pools. Yeah, it was nice for the kids. They entertained us. Yeah, it was good.
Very good. What about training? Have you got straight back into your training from getting back?
I've tried to. So my training has been a little bit kind of sketchy the last month. So you guys will see me at the gym. I've had a bit of a hip TFL, tensor fascial for those people anatomically minded. So my hip's been basically irritating me. So I've been off squatting and leg weights for about a month. So this week I've finally been able to start again. So it's almost like starting from scratch, just kind of working out what I kind of can't get away with. I even, you'd be shocked to hear this, went for a little jog last night to see how it went out, and that was okay. Yeah. I've seen my legs were okay. The running was horrific. It was awful.
Yeah.
That was in no
Running.
time, so
Running,
Yeah.
not in lockdown.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Impressive, mate. Impressive.
It's only because for a month I couldn't. So you kind of going, as soon as you can't do something, you kind of think, well, that's something I want to do. And then kind of 2K.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Yeah, I've done that now. That's fine.
Yeah, I've had enough. I'll do it for 2022.
Yeah.
Class.
But you
And,
guys, got your challenge coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah.
We did his first. We did a 4-hour block on Saturday morning. Just a bit of practice. I know it's 24 hours, so even that's not nowhere enough. But we did the 4-hour straight through, 30 minutes on each: bike, row, ski, treadmill, bike, ski, and that all just went twice through 4 hours. But it was good though. It was really good. People coming in and doing the 30-minute slots like with us, you know, they were coming in and doing 30 minutes. We stayed on. It just helped Mark, didn't it? Massively. It made
I think. Yeah, if it had just been us two doing it, your head goes a little bit sometimes. I always think like when you're on your own, it takes some doing, doesn't it? And just two of you can talk yourself in and out of all sorts. But it didn't feel bad because it freshens it up every half hour. It just freshened it up a little bit, and they come in with they're ready to go. Yeah. They just bring a bit of energy, and it just that change of atmosphere. So it's made me do is really, really weirdly, it's made me really look forward to this 24-hour challenge. I think number one, it all like that, it tests your head, doesn't it? You know, so and. No gym session tests your head in the same way as them silly endurance things, and I couldn't do the ultra marathon type thing, and even a normal marathon I think is not really something I want to get into. But because you're doing it, we're calling it a quadrathon, aren't we? Yeah. So because you've got them different events, sort of like events, different different events. Each one you do it, you're alternating. I think it breaks up that cycle, having different people coming in. We're having half an hour breaks every hour, aren't we? So we've only got 16 hours of work to actually do in 24 hours. So hour on, 30 minutes off. But it'll be tough. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking at if we get it all full like we're hoping to, then it'll really make it a good do. I think it'll be really good.
We ought to maybe do a podcast on it, on what we're doing and why we're doing it. But Wakey, obviously, talk about the charity, talk about how people, outsiders, can get involved. Obviously, we know as members of booking slots, but we're still going to have some slots available for outsiders. So we could maybe open it up a little bit, couldn't we? So we could explain how the 24-hour will work. If people want to come in and jump on and help us.
Well, so how far did you get then? What was your distance that you covered in those 4 hours that you did?
We did 260. I think we ended, to be exact, I think it was 266 kilometres in 4 hours we covered.
And how much are you trying to get to then?
1,400 in the 24 hours.
So
I think we were slightly above. We're just above Mark, aren't we? Yeah, we're just above. So we might do it if we could keep that intensity up for 24 hours and not just 4. We'd do it in about 23 hours. But I'm sure we're going to fade a little bit, obviously, as the night's drawing in and stuff like that, as we're getting in more into the time. So the importance of other people coming up and lifting our energy, but then covering some distance for us in their slots is going to be massive, going to be really important.
If anybody's listening to this that owns a coffee shop, I think these guys need some coffee support along the way.
Yeah, God, yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about that today, I'm sure, but yeah, fueled by coffee and hate.
Yeah, we'll talk about why the coffee will help us.
Yeah, and but based on all that, we're on about it. But we burnt. So what did you burn? So 4 hours, 2,200 calories.
Yeah.
So 2,200 calories in 4 hours. So if you think of that as well, just the amount of food that we're going to have to try and replace as we're going.
It's about 10,000 calories active in it, actively burnt. So if we're going to have to try and we're going to have to come up with some good calorie dense foods to be snacking on, aren't we?
I think that's what I had on holiday. So I think I was about 10,000 calories that day then anyway. So
well, just send us your diet sheet, mate. What you had for holiday.
Yeah, that'll do us.
Try and copy that.
Yeah, I'm not sure Peroni is going to help.
It might do near end.
It'd help one small little window, wouldn't it? When you just get that little energy burst and you feel like you can pull an house down, but then you just fade afterwards, don't you?
Do you watch the Tour de France?
Yeah, go.
You know, the last bit where they come cycling down the Champs-Elysees and the winning team are there and they're all drinking the champagne as they come down the Champs-Elysees. That's the 23rd hour needs to be you two with a bottle of Moët in each hand going, whatever I want.
But that'd be a bit difficult if we're on rower or ski.
Give them hats, you know, the beer hats.
Yeah.
Or just somebody pouring it down his neck for us. We'll do that.
Yeah.
And then that's his plan. So we've got beer and pizzas for after when we finish the challenge. That's what we're going to have. We're having a bit of a get together at gym, mate, afterwards. So 6 o'clock Saturday, 11th of June. That will be, won't it?
There might only be us there.
One sip of beer, you either be asleep or pissed.
Oh, we will. I know we'll be right. Yeah, we definitely won't be drinking a lot, will we? After that. No. So that's it. So we ought to cover it though. Well, shall we do a podcast on it, and we'll stick the link on at the end of every podcast as well. We'll keep sticking the link on to try and raise money because it is, like I said, it's for Wakey Hospice. So the plan is really quickly every 30-minute slot we are selling 30-minute slots, so people come in and they keep the two pieces of equipment rolling for us, so we have that in distance, and it's £10 for every 30-minute slot that we sell. And all that goes to hospice. And then we're obviously just doing other little fundraising stuff as well. Try and raise as much as we can for them because it's been a shit 2 year, hasn't it? For charities and stuff. So we'll try and have a real good bash at it.
Yeah.
Cool. Is that it then? Shall we crack on? Shall we get on about fat burners? I'm sure everybody's just itching, just desperate, going, come on.
Yeah. So what do we want to know about fat burners? I suppose it's the thing is like, well, what are they? And then should people take them? So I suppose to kick us off, I kind of did a bit of digging around the kind of different types of things that people take within this kind of fat burning category. So the first one is those fat burners. The next one, we've got a couple of things like things that are fat utilizers. And then the third kind of type is that the fat binders. And they all are proposed to have this kind of idea of fat loss benefit, just different degrees, but in different ways. So some are diet pills. Again, that's the term, isn't it? You often get thrown around. You see in supermarkets like diet pills, but not all are fat burners. And some are designed to stop you absorbing fat, or in theory are designed to stop you absorbing fat. So they're the kind of the categories that we look at. When I try to make sense of what works and how does it work. And there's kind of two things that I think kind of sprung to mind. One would be like the primary effect. So the way I describe the primary effect would be if I had repeated 2 days, the exact day 1, day 2, there was nothing different. I ate the same, I moved the same, I slept the same, everything was exactly the same. On day 1, I had a no fat burning product. On day 2, I did. Would I burn more fat on day 2 than I did on day 1? So that would be the primary effect. The secondary effect is kind of what happens outside, like how does taking this fat burning thing change the day that I would normally have? So is it not actually the actual direct effect of the tablet? It's like it's the consequences that follow on after that. That's kind of how I kind of look at things. And the best way I can describe that is you are motivated to go and kind of lose some fat, lose weight, lose fat. I think we've talked about this already. When most people say they want to lose weight, what we interpret they mean is lose body fat. Like if they were just as fat, but weighed less on the scale, they would still be unhappy about the outcome. So it's really about fat loss.
Definitely, yeah.
So somebody's burning 3,500 calories a day. They're eating 3,500 calories a day, and they need 2,000. So there's a massive surplus. And they go, I'm going to take this tablet. This tablet's going to be my miracle cure. It's going to make me lose weight. What they then think about is, well, if I'm going to take this one tablet that I'm going to spend money over the counter to get, me eating all these different things are no good for me because I'm taking this tablet. And therefore start to make lifestyle changes because they've taken this tablet. Where if they'd have made them lifestyle changes anyway and not had that tablet, they would still lose weight. So actually, it's not the tablet itself that's made them lose weight. It's the lifestyle choices that they've changed because they made this emotional decision to go and take a tablet. Now, the tablet may or may not have an effect, but it's actually the reality is that if you go from eating 3,500 calories to 2,000 calories, that's definitely going to be the most important factor that's going to make you lose weight. So
yeah,
that's kind of how I kind of look at things. Is there a main effect and there's a primary effect? And then is there a secondary effect?
Yeah, I think what you're saying there is that ends up being the motivation, doesn't it? They've spent that money, they've done it, and I think we've all done that with different supplements. In part, like even if like I remember when I was younger, but creatine and stuff. When I take, and you take it, you think, right, I'm going to up my training now. If I'm taking it, I'm going to get more. I'm going to make it most out of this. So it's a different slant on it, I suppose. But it's the same. It adds motivation, doesn't it, to what you do. And if
I remember years ago, I was in Nottingham. We had a game, and the game got called off as we sat on the bus, and this guy taking his creatine for the game, like going, I said, creatine. So we got out of the bus, the game was off, everybody else went to the pub because the game was off, and he ran up and down the pitch. What are you doing? I've taken my creatine, so we've got to get the effect of the creatine. So like that product changed.
Yeah.
Where everybody else was like 3 pints deep by the time we finished.
Yeah.
That wasn't me, but yeah. But that, so it's absolutely right. So it's a placebo, it's a motivational factor. But the problem is that if that tablet did or did not have an effect, because that was the catalyst, the starting thing, everybody believes it's the tablet had the effect, when in reality it was the fact that I'm now eating less calories and moving more.
Yeah. It comes down to psychology every time, doesn't it, when it comes to weight loss and everything. It all comes down to psychology and what you're thinking is going into whatever you're going to do. Do you know, like, and just to make them lifestyle choices without that is enough for some people, but a lot of people, they need that extra thing, following a certain plan, for example, or, they need it written down, don't they? Or, everybody's psychology is different when it comes down to weight loss, fat loss, getting in shape, whatever it might be, their training. So so what do you know? So what can you tell us then, Mark, or what can you tell people about what these effects are then? Do they work then without, if they did things daily?
So let's kind of look at products kind of almost like one by one. So there's two I'm going to start off with. One is L-carnitine and one is conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA. So if you're used to looking on these kind of diet supplements, you'll see these products, or you might not know the names of these products. But if you turn the products around and look at the labels, you'll often see these things coming up repeatedly. So CLA or L-carnitine. And those two are based around roughly what we think is, or what they're sold to be as. These things make you utilize fat as a fuel source. Do they work? Not really, basically. So if I can go back to what I was talking about, if I was to sit around all day and my basic metabolic rate is 2,300 calories, that's all I need to use, 2,300. If I gain in 2,300, net balance, we talked about it in the calorie week. First law, thermodynamics, energy in, energy out. Simple. If I take a product that makes me use fat, I still only need to burn 2,300 calories. Whether it's fat or carbohydrates makes no difference. I still need to burn what I'm taking in. The net balance will be exactly the same thing. This is where the secondary effect kicks in. I don't use fat any more than I use carbs. If I use fat, I'm sparing myself the carbs. I'll still keep the weight on in carbs. The net cost is the same. But because I've taken this tablet, I then go move more. So the L-carnitine or CLA probably hasn't had any effect whatsoever. If you sat down still, you're not going to burn off any more fat. But if you then go and move around a bit more, you're going to burn fat. And we talked a couple about the HIIT sessions. If I go for a steady walk, that's a fat utilization activity anyway. If I lift weights, that's going to be high energy, it can be ATP. I'm not going to burn a lot of fat. So it doesn't really make a great deal of difference, those two. So if I was to take a diet product, not that I probably would, but if I did, I wouldn't go down that road because I don't really think there's any evidence. I want to talk about evidence. I will go to examine.com. So that's where I've got basically all this kind of background information on. There's no real evidence that it works. So, and there might be slight bits here or there. And then is that benefit worth the cost of these products? In my view, definitely not. Placebo psychology, does somebody need this kind of motivation to get themselves going? If that makes you move around more and if that makes you eat less food, then it is worth the money. But the product on its own, I don't think is.
That's why I was just going to go into that. I think a lot of people, they do need that, don't they? Feel like they need something extra to then motivate them to train that little bit more. It's mad. The psychology of us humans is crazy, isn't it? And I even know that even down to sometimes I might not be feeling like a training session, and then I have a cup of coffee. I know that cup of coffee and all of a sudden just transformed it. But in my mind, it's like, right, I've had my coffee now. I can smell. I've had the smell. You know, like my routine is to have a coffee before I exercise. It doesn't matter. You know, like I'm not purely doing it for the benefit of the slight, you know, like the caffeine content. It's just for my mind, and it helps me. It helps me switch on and think about that training session. I've got into that routine over years. I suppose it crept in without really even knowing, just probably when I was researching it more and doing his dissertation stuff. But I know it helps me. So
would you think it's a habit then, Greg?
It's definitely a habit. It is 100% a habit, is having a coffee. And at this moment in time, I don't mind it. So I'm not going to change.
Oh, for those people who on YouTube will see me a coffee cup, I've got a coffee machine in my office. That thing is whirring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll come to caffeine in a minute, I'm sure. But for those two, the CLA and L-carnitine, they're very popular in the kind of the diet fat loss sections. And for me, the evidence doesn't really stack up very much. Certainly in terms of like, does it substantiate the cost of buying them and the effect that they have? Definitely not for me.
Right. So our members, anybody listening, if that's something that you've looked at and thought about buying it fast, unless you are doing it purely for a motivational thing to help you through a block of training or whatever, you're not really going to benefit from it. You've just got to move more, exercise more, food. Yeah. It's all the same things that we usually say in it.
Yeah. So I suppose what we have to then think about is like the first and primary advice will always be eat less or eat better. And move more and move better.
Yeah,
like, always about moving more, about moving better. So, like, does a fat loss product, help and accentuate that, or is it just a waste of money? Is really what we're getting at. The next group of products, something I know a little bit less about, and they're much more recent on the market. And these are these fat binding products. And again, the idea is that you take this kind of product in, and then when you eat food, this product binds the fat to it, and then you pass it out. You don't digest it. I mean,
I know somebody once tried selling us or selling me, trying to get me into one of these products. It were a bit like, you know, one of these chain, what do they call them, pyramid scheme things, telling me how amazing it was. It was like the selling point was you can eat whatever you want. Fat, however fat you want, like Chinese, you can eat Chinese, you can eat pizzas, and you take one of these tablets with it, and it will like clump all the fat together, and you will obviously excrete it. You will get rid of it, and it's like, what sort of diet are you trying to sell people here? What are you know, like from a health point of view, you're trying to sell somebody a tablet and tell them they can eat as much shit as they want, basically, and it will just start. Oh, what planet are they on? Some people.
Yeah, and that is kind of the basics, and I think. There's a real kind of nasty undertone to this idea is like it's okay to do whatever you want because we have a tablet that's going to make it all better, which is
the magic pill.
Completely the opposite true. So there's a couple of things about this, and again, this is something where I try to find the research on it, and I couldn't find very much. That for me is a massive red flag because it means it's not been proven. That also means it hasn't been proven not to work. But if I'm going to advise somebody on a fat loss journey to go and buy something, I want to have some confidence that I've seen it work. And I have.
That's just same as us with Jim, isn't it, Mark? We everything that we push for, whether it's the training, the nutrition, it's all proven, it's all science, it's all been like kind of researched in the past. We're not coming up with new ideas that are not published and stuff that you need to know that it works, don't you?
Yeah. The second
thing, going to push it.
The second thing that scared me about this was it plays into that narrative that fat is bad, and that's not true. Now, a lot of fat is bad, and certain types of fats are bad, yes, but not all fat is bad, and we need some of it. We have like things like fat soluble vitamins. Fat plays an essential role in our internal mechanisms. If we're not ingesting that fat, then our body's not getting the resources that we need. And that kind of like that message scares me. We can eat all these healthy, wonderful fats that we get from like nuts and other sources like that, and then we want to pass them out and not use them. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And it plays back into this idea that carbs are good and fats are bad. And actually, refined sugar is bad. We know that. Like saturated, like heavy animal fats, yeah, a lot of them is bad. But actually, in that area between those two, there's a lot of good things that we can ingest. So I don't really want to pass them out. I want to keep them in. So it sells the wrong idea about diet and nutrition. It sells completely a different perspective than I would feel comfortable advising somebody on. So again, it's going, why would I tell somebody to take something that means they're going to deliberately have a bad diet? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And actually, you spend less money on food, you'll lose weight, rather than spending more money on a problem and then allow you to spend more money on food. It's like it works against it. But it plays into the idea of what's the easiest way to do something without any hard work.
Yeah. And that appeals to that goes back to psychology again. That appeals to a lot of people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We have it with people, like people with different, like people type 2 diabetic, blood pressure, different things like that. And if a tablet will make it so that everything appears to be all right, they will take that rather than making a lifestyle change, won't they?
And we aren't going to change that for the population, but I think if people are listening to this and they go, oh yeah, that kind of makes some sense. I think we're doing a good thing there. But yeah, really kind of, I agree with you, Gray, like going, what advice are you really giving people with this product?
Yeah.
I think philosophically, I don't agree with that. The third category, and this is probably where most of the fat burners sit, and there's quite a big category, is the idea of a stimulant. And within that stimulant, there are a number of different ones, but the biggest one usually being caffeine. We've got green tea in there, which again sits within caffeine, and we've got some things like ephedrine, which we're going to get into today, taurine. If you look at most fat loss products, they're all based around caffeine. Now, caffeine has evidence of increasing fat loss, but not through the mechanism. Again, going back to if I sat still and did no more extra moving around, would caffeine make me lose weight? No. What does caffeine do that makes people lose weight, which is effective? Well, first of all, it's relatively cheap. You can go and get some Pro Plus off the shelf or the alternative non-branded version, and that's going to be really cheap. That's going to give you a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, tablets are really cheap, aren't they?
Yeah, really cheap. As you said, they're great coffee. If you have like a strong coffee, there's plenty of caffeine in that. So it is really easy to access. You don't have to go and buy an expensive diet product off the shelf to get that amount of caffeine into your diet. Caffeine does a couple of things. The most important thing I think it does is prolongs fatigue. It allows you to do more. So if you went and did some training, the point at which you get tired would be pushed down the road a little bit. So you can train hard, you can train for longer, you can do more work. In that more work, you burn more calories. Also, you are more typically going to be moving around more during the day. So we're talking about NEATs, non-exercise active thermogenesis. So I would fidget a lot more. If I imagine I fidgeted all day compared to sitting perfectly still all day, I want to have double my calorie expenditure, but I might add 200, 300, 400 extra calories in that day, depending on how big I am, compared to sitting still. That accumulated over like 5 days will build up to some kind of calorie deficit if your diet stays the same, and again, based on your metabolic rate. So there's a lot of evidence around the kind of idea of stimulants promoting fat loss. But again, that's more driven by the training capacity going up and being able to do more training and therefore burn more calories in that training than necessarily sitting still kind of fat loss.
Yeah, and just generally more active,
Yeah.
like you say. If you're hoovering, if you're doing jobs around house, if you've probably got a bit of caffeine in you, you're probably more likely to do a bit more or go. You might hoover faster.
Yeah.
I'm just picture that now, whizzing over about.
Yeah. So they're the main ones. So if you look at like diet whey products, you see these on the shelf like diet whey. They're basically whey protein with some caffeine in them. The like fat loss teas, I think is ridiculous because all teas got caffeine in it, so it all works. But I have seen some products on the shelf that has a fat loss tea. So if anybody that doesn't know how to read food labels, I always list the most abundant product first. So I looked at this particular fat loss tea from a well-known brand that I won't mention. And the number one product in this fat loss tea was maltodextrin, which is sugar. Like, why don't I just have a cup of tea, which has just got tea in it, or a cup of coffee, which has only got coffee in it? Why do I have to have this diet tea with sugar in it? It doesn't make any sense. But again, the playing on this idea that it's a branded product, and because it's got caffeine in it, or caffeine has been proven to have fat loss. Well, yes, it has, but not when it's got a lump of sugar next to it. Like, no studies have done like fat loss that is like with caffeine plus 16 spoons of sugar. That's not how they do those studies.
So is that purely in there just from an addictivity point of view? They're just wanting people to get addicted to it out there. They're wanting people to have it, think it's really nice and sweet, and think, oh my God, this is amazing.
Tastes nice. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're wanting to. It's just about them selling. They don't give a crap whether it helps people lose weight, do they?
No. And let's be honest. If you're selling a diet product, the last thing you want somebody to do is lose weight quickly.
Yeah.
Because they're going to buy less of it.
Yeah. Well, you'd be out of business then, wouldn't you? No.
Yeah.
If it was so easy as well.
Yeah. So if I was to summarize all of that kind of stuff from a diet fat loss perspective, I think spending less money on food and eating less food is always the best way. There's no product on the shelf that I'm going to say was definitely something that would be the recommended. Caffeine, on the other hand, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it from a diet and weight loss perspective, but it will help because it'll improve your training. But it comes with a bit of a warning. One, it is addictive. Two, you increase your tolerance to it, and when you take it, influences your sleep. We've just been talking beforehand about sleeps. I've just been like I said, I'm chugging coffee down and going, what about your sleep? Well, I've got a 6-month-old baby, so like caffeine's the least of my worries. But if I was sleeping all the way through the night, I have a rule about kind of like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the last coffee I have. Because if I have one after that, I know I'm not going to sleep well that night. So if you are an evening exercise, and a lot of your members will be evening exercises because of their work schedule, and then thinking, I'm going to take some caffeine before I train, I'm going to do loads of extra training, and then I'm going to lose a load of weight. But then, as we spoke about in our sleep episode, sleep, that's a massive driver for hormones that are related to diet, appetite, and weight loss. So you take robbing Peter to pay Paul there. So I wouldn't, if you're an evening exercise, I wouldn't bother with a caffeine supplement just before you train in an evening, because that's going to have a negative effect on your sleep, and I think that's more important than what you do in the session, because you're going to have.
I think yeah, totally agree, mate. I think something people need to be aware of as well, mate, is I only learned this recently. I've always thought I were like kind of a non-responder, because I've always just said I can have a coffee late on a night and I can just sleep. I'm fine. You know, like, it don't keep me awake. I'm not laid in bed, wired, just buzzing from the coffee. Whereas Billy, on the other hand, his good mate Billy, for years I said I can't have a coffee, you know, because I can't sleep. He says he is just wide awake. So I used to kind of laugh at him. Oh, what's up with I'll have a coffee? But then I've learned in the meantime, even though you are asleep, it does affect your sleep patterns, doesn't it? So if it's in your system, that secondary effect that it has, it's still in your system, even though you're not wired. You might not be laid there wide awake, but it is stopping you from getting your correct sleep in it, your sleeping patterns, the deep sleep.
So those people who were familiar with us, we had a YouTube video that accompanied our podcast on the sleep episode. We talked about sleep architecture. It comes in waves. So we might be asleep, but might only get to those first 2 lighter levels. But it's the deeper levels and those deep sleep where our hormones get reset and recalibrated. And that's where we want to get the benefit from.
Yeah.
So yes, we could be asleep, but we're not in deep sleep, and that's still not good. So yeah, definitely caffeine is great, but it must come with a warning that if you have it at night close to sleep, and there's a half-life around about 8 hours. So that's why I said 3 o'clock. If you're going to go to bed at say 10, the last coffee about 2 should be out of your system, or meaningfully out of your system by 10 o'clock to get good sleep. If you got to sleep later, you can maybe go a bit later. If you got to sleep a bit earlier, then you need to go a little bit earlier. But if you train in the morning, then you're okay. Crack on, have IV caffeine, or mid-afternoon. That should be fine. But again, a lot of people do have evening training sessions because of work, and therefore I wouldn't advise it.
No, I agree, mate. Yeah, 100%.
And so when we're talking about the half-life a little bit there, for it being out of your system, it's about an hour before it, or if you're ingesting it orally, didn't it, mate? If you're having a coffee or tablets, it's about an hour before your exercise. If you want the peak effect of your caffeine, you want to be taking it about an hour before you train. So if you're training at 4 o'clock, you're going out for your run or hitting the gym, you want to be taking your caffeine about 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that puts into your body that little bit earlier, doesn't it? So that half-life hopefully will have less effect. So it's coming out of your system. There's no point whatsoever drinking a caffeine supplement 5 minutes before you train or throughout a session. You're not going to gain anything from it, are you?
No, we used to give players before the game, and the idea was because the game lasted around about 2 hours with first half time, and then obviously the back end, we want the caffeine to be available towards the end of the game rather than the beginning of the game. So if you've got a relatively long session coming up, you can like a 2 hour session, you might want to do that a little bit closer. So you delay the effect of that caffeine. So if you're running like a 3 hour marathon, you might want to have that delayed effect. But if you're doing like a 45-minute HIIT session, then you want it to be available for the whole duration of that session. So you don't need to kick it in as you're finishing. Although it might feel a little bit better afterwards. You might not feel quite so tired at the end of it.
Yeah. We did that on Saturday morning now. We had us drink pretty much as we were starting, Mark, didn't we? We were kind of sipping it away as caffeine energy drink that we have. That we just had that as we were starting because we wanted it to last as long as we could throughout the 4 hours.
We've only got 1 minute left, guys. So I think we've covered everything regarding fat burners there. So what I just want to say as well is like we asked for members for listeners to give questions. What we mean by that is if you can post them on social media. Obviously, we're not live, so we can't listen to you straight away. But if you can post them on social media, Twitter, Instagram, something like that, a quick fire question that you want to ask us at the end, please feel free and then chuck them on there. And thank you all for listening. Anything from you guys, really? Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked the episode, we'd like you to share with us that on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter. You can listen again on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a rating and a review, and any comments would be more than appreciated. And hopefully you'll tune back next time for our next episode.
The Yorkshire Fitness Podcast.